Welcome to Menopause Moguls podcast, the Elevation Talk series, with yours truly, Dr. Joyelle. I am Dr. Joyelle, the Menopause Mogul, board certified OBGYN and business coach for Black women 40 and over. And my mission is to educate, embolden, and empower Black women and other women of color in their journey through health and careers. This is a space for Black women and other women of color to share their compelling trials and tribulations in their health and or in their careers and businesses. This is where we recognize the humanity of Black women and show how Black women continue to elevate despite midlife challenges and changes. Hello. Welcome back to Menopause Moguls. How is everyone doing today? Today, I wanted to first thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing the episodes. I really appreciate y'all. I just wanted to say that because, just coming back into the recording sessions after taking a break, you feel a certain way about, being away for so long. And it's like, is everyone gonna listen? But y'all right back on it. So I appreciate y'all. I truly appreciate y'all. So please keep watching. Please keep listening. Please keep sharing. Because again, if we don't get the information out there to all of our sisters, then, people will be out here struggling, and I don't want that. So share, comment. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a 5-star review and a review if you're listening on Apple Podcast. So I wanted to talk about growing seasons, right? Growing season in the menopausal transition, which I think the menopausal transition is our growing season. And because I was thinking about some things that it keeps coming up for me, growing, right? Growth, how much I am growing and continue to grow as I'm going through all these different transitions. And I was just kind of thinking about things that I have been journaling, and I was looking back from things I have written last year, and a couple of scriptures that I was really kind of tuned in, and how those scriptures have come up again for me as I'm going through more transitions, right? And just remembering a short story about my first healing journey as I was, taking some time off, and I was thinking about, growth from then up until this point, right? But back then, I was, again, in the first bout of my long COVID, right? So I was just, obviously going through, like you've heard in prior episodes, just going through some things, right? And trying to figure out what's what and what I need to do next and all the things. And there was a day where I decided to plant some plants, some hydrangeas, and in my backyard with my husband. Now, y'all, let me just tell you, I am not the gardening type, right? I do not like bugs. I don't like dirt. Like, I'm not the gardening type. And back in the day, like, you give me a plant and that plant is just going to die, because I was just not that type. Like, I did not water the plants. Like, they would just die. And I'm like, my mother will always give me plants for, like, different, Mother's Day. I'm like, Ma, like, why you keep giving me plants? Because they don't survive here. So, but I have to say that I have grown, y'all. I have grown, and I'm growing so many things, not only within me, but outside of me, as far as plants, things like that. But back to the story. So I decided to plant some hydrangeas in my backyard. So me and my husband are out there. The kids were in school, And I remember digging, the holes for the plants. And I'm like, it was hard. It was hard. It was difficult because the ground was so hard. And then there was all these rocks. So I'm like trying to get the rocks out the way. So I would, dig and move the rocks out of the way from up under, where I wanted to plant, and then also on off to the sides. I would just move those rocks so I can eventually put some, new topsoil inside the hole, and then put the plant inside, and then put a little bit more soil on top of that. So, and in thinking about that, when we are trying to build a business in these midlife streets, thinking about, are we truly aware of our rocks, right? So like I said, planting these plants, I'm thinking like, I have to remove these rocks because how the plant is going to take root if there's rocks there, right? So I'll kind of get the rocks out of the way, move the rocks out of the way as I was planting these plants. So I was thinking about this, and I know y'all may be like, what are you talking about? Building a business in rocks, right? But this is what came to me back then, and this has come up for me again. So when we are trying to build a business in these midlife streets, and wondering, are we aware of the rocks that can get in our way? And I think many of us can be aware of the rocks outside of us, access to capital, support, discrimination, bias, whatever, those things that are happening outside of us. But I think a lot of times there are rocks within us that we are not aware of, and we at the same time are getting in our own way. And I realized that with myself, right? As I was trying to, in the beginning of me building my business, there were definitely rocks within me. And these rocks were rocks of limiting beliefs, right? I remember, having the idea of building a business, like I was so excited, like, woo, this is going to be good. And I started doing some things, and eventually the excitement kind of fizzled and it turned into overwhelm. Like, oh my God, like I can't do this. I can't build a business. I don't know anything about building a business. I don't have a business degree. I think, do I need an MBA? Then I'm too busy. I don't have enough time. Like, how am I going to do this? So all of that kind of built upon itself, right? And I became eventually inactive in trying to build this business because I was like, this is just too much. This too much, right? And I realized that, in doing that, or in thinking, having those limiting beliefs, I was getting in my own way, but I did not see that at the time. Like I did not realize that at the time. And so then I would, okay, let me just Google this. And then I'm going to attend this webinar to learn about, creating a business plan, or how to market the business, like all the things, right? So I will attend all these webinars. I'm like, all right, I got this information. Now I can do this, and now I can do that. And I remember just sitting at my desk, and it was like, okay, I got all this information. I don't know what to do first. I just felt kind of lost. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Should I do this first? Should I create this big, well thought out plan first, and then start marketing, and then create, like, it was just a lot of confusion. But in my mind, because I had, established this whole list, really notebooks, right? Yeah, spiral notebooks, right? Of all this information, like, okay, I got this. Like I'm being productive here. And I was not productive. I was truly honestly procrastinating, right? I would do either attend webinars or Google this, Google that, and not really like taking action. It was information. What did I use? What do they call it? Per, analysis paralysis. That's what I'm thinking about. Analysis paralysis, where I am analyzing and analyzing all this information, but was really stuck in not moving and actually working on the business, right? So those were my rocks, right? In rocks of procrastination, rocks of perfectionism, that also came up because I would have like when I started creating my program, and I was like, okay, that doesn't sound right. I would just delete it all and restart again, or create a whole new page, and like it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. And also the thought of this all has to be created perfectly before I even tell anybody that I'm building, this program. I can't say anything because it's not perfect yet. And I realized that all of that was wrong. That was something, again, this business idea that I had was in an environment that wasn't really truly taking root, because I had all these rocks of limiting beliefs and rocks of procrastination and perfectionism that wasn't really allowing me to truly take action in the things that I actually needed to do in order to build my business. And obviously another rock, especially when you are going through midlife changes, and your body is just doing things, those can be rocks too, where you are having brain fog or hot flashes, lack of energy. Like all those things can create feelings that, oh my gosh, I have this brain fog. How am I possibly going to start coaching people? How am I possibly going to serve these people if I have brain fog and I can't remember what I did? I can't remember what I was going to say. If I have a big meeting, like all these things, these feelings that come up, and that breeds, less confidence, and that breeds, again, just inactivity, because you feel stuck and you really can't move in a way that you truly need to in order to build the business. And when I realized that, because again, like I said, in the midst of it all in the beginning, I did not realize that. I did not realize that those were rocks. And I also had, working with clients, the same things. You don't realize that you're getting in your own way at the time. So when I realized it, I learned that I needed to kick rocks. Just needed to kick rocks, right? And what I needed to do was create an environment that actually allows my ideas of my business, of what I wanted to do, to actually take root and grow, right? An environment that pushes those rocks out of the way, push them off to the side. Because quite honestly, I also have to say that those rocks have not, for me, I mean, not speak for everybody, but they don't completely go away, right? Those limiting beliefs, they don't completely go away. The perfectionism and procrastination, I'm still recovering from all of that, right? So no, they don't completely go away, but I've learned to acknowledge when it's actually happening, right? And catch myself like, oh, you trying to be perfect here. Like, just put it out there. You're creating a post for your social media and you're doing all these changes, and you're like, oh no, I'm gonna erase it and do it over again. Like, no, like, stop doing that. stop doing that. I had to catch myself. Because in the midst before that, it was like I would just keep doing it over and over again until it was perfect. And that took up so much time and energy, and I, realized that it just wasn't the good thing to do, right? Because it just, again, just kept me stuck and kept me in the space of overwhelm of like, oh my gosh, this is so much, and I can't do it, and I just didn't do it, right? It just, you just didn't. I just didn't do anything. So I realized, once I realized that I needed to learn to first acknowledge the rocks of limiting belief, acknowledge the rocks of, if symptoms kind of came in that made me feel a certain way, acknowledge those feelings, and then figure out what I needed to do to address those, right? And what I needed in those moments. And coaching my clients, it's the same thing where, coaching them on how to get out of their own way. And what I learned within myself, as well as coaching my clients, the best way to start is to change the relationship that we have with ourselves, and nurture that relationship. Because coming into a space with this business idea, if you put it into an environment where you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself, then that is going to reflect on how you show up in your business, and then ultimately for the people you want to serve. So if you are intentional about creating a new relationship with yourself, watering that relationship with yourself with good things, right? And what I mean by that is a different way of treating yourself, a different way of talking to yourself, because again, those limiting beliefs kind of, they flood in, right, with all the things and all the reasons why you can't build this business, while you are going through these midlife changes, these challenges, and you just, you could just feel stuck, and you just feel like you just can't do it. So learning to move those rocks out of the way, those rocks of limiting beliefs, help me, as well as my clients, to be able to take action and actually do the work that I needed to do that was productive, in order to build my business and ultimately, serve my people. And so just thinking about that comes up, like I said, those rocks don't completely go away. So that obviously came up again for me as I'm going through my whole temporary long COVID stuff, and the limiting beliefs that created. So it comes up again and again and again, right? But because I have learned from, in the beginning of my entrepreneur journey, to move those rocks, right? To move those out of the way so I can stop getting in my own way. I am now, again, putting that back into, putting that back into, how do I want to say? Putting that back into action, where I'm actually, again, doing that so I can do the things that I need to do in order to move forward in my business. So the scriptures that came up when I journaled about this last year was Luke 8. Let me just make sure I'm saying the right one, because I don't want to be telling y'all wrong. Yeah, Luke 8, verse 5 through 8, actually. This is going to be, I'm going to call this episode Growing Season in Menopause and Business Part 1, because there's different parts, right? So for this, when I'm thinking about the rocks and thinking about the things that can potentially get in our own way within us, I'm thinking about Luke 8 scripture, verse 5, verse 5 and 6. So verse 5 is, a sower went out to sow his seed, and he sowed. Some fell by the wayside, and it was trodden down, and the fowls of the air devoured it. Verse 6 is, and some fell upon a rock, and as soon as it was sprung up, it withered away because it lacked moisture. Right? So when it said lacked of moisture, I was like, wow, because again, watering the relationship that we have with ourselves is so important as we are going through these midlife changes, and then at the same time trying to build a business and follow our dreams and things. We have to really water the relationship that we have with ourselves with self-compassion, giving ourselves grace, putting things in our bodies, healthier foods, moving our bodies, all the things that we need to do to water ourselves, to nurture ourselves as we go through this journey, because it impacts how our business will grow, right? How the idea of our business will grow into the actual business so we can serve our people. To go back to verse 5, a sower went out to sow a seed, and he sowed. Some fell by the wayside, and it was trodden down, and the fowls of the air devoured it. That spoke to me because that, for me, it talks about things on the outside of us that can potentially, when we have this idea of things outside of us, can kind of step on us and make us feel like our idea is not a good idea. So that can be people, that can be the society, like, oh, you're at this age, you probably shouldn't start a business at this age, things that, and I've also just talking to other women, we're getting into these midlife years, and you put your idea out to whether it's friends or family, and they're like, what are you trying to do that for? Just like, for me as a doctor, like, oh, you going to start a business? Like, what, are you still going to be a doctor? Like, what do you do? What are you doing that for? Like, why would you do that? So, that just made me think that, and I wanted to share with you that you may have a vision. You have a vision, right? You have a vision of what you want to do, what you want your life to look like. But be aware that your vision is not it's not going to be somebody else's vision, right? Other people, it can be your family, it can be friends, or whoever that is, may not see that vision. And that is okay. That doesn't mean it's the wrong vision, right? It doesn't mean that we have to just let our dreams and our idea of building this business or whatever that thing you want to do, let it just wither away and be devoured by whoever, right? So having the vision of what you want to do, and you get a little kind of other people's input. We have to learn how to kind of, push that off to, like, okay, like you have your opinion, but not allowing it to affect us, and not allowing other people's expectations of us as we are going through pivots in our careers or in our lives, not allowing other people's expectations of us change the way that we want to move, and change the things that we want to do as far as, following our dreams and building a business and things like that. So that's why I also wanted to include that one. But when you, again, going back to the rocks, being aware of those rocks, I think as we are building a new relationship with ourselves in these midlife years, we have to change the belief system that we have within ourselves and about ourselves, right? So that we are able to do the things that we need to do in order to build this thing that, really is bigger than us, right? With the change of belief system that we have with ourselves, and also acknowledge our own experience. Our experience within us is good enough for us to start building a business. Because I think that is another rock, where the rock of the rock that we don't really own our brilliance, our greatness. Like, we kind of discount it, like, oh, I don't have that much experience, or oh, like, again, for me, like, how am I gonna build a business? I don't have an MBA. I have an MD. I don't have an MBA. Like, so how am I? And I'm like, no, like, you have whatever experience you have within your life, within your career already. All of that counts, and all of that matters, and all of that adds to your greatness. So being able to acknowledge that, and also acknowledge that that inherently gives you enough to just start building. Because I think a lot of times that can hold us back, like, oh, I don't want to start yet because I need to get this extra certification. I don't want to start yet because maybe I need to get another degree. I don't want to start yet because I got to get something, other training or whatever. And not to say you may not get those things eventually, but don't feel like you need to get those things like right now before you even start. Because if you already have the seed, if you already have this idea that God has given you, you can start. You can start right now. You can start right now. And as you start, you have to acknowledge those rocks that are creeping in, and you just have to just move them away. Move them away, set them to the side, whatever you need to do, just set them to the side. Because if we allow the rocks to continue just to kind of clutter our environment that we're trying to grow this business within, that business is not going to take root and grow like we want it to grow, because we're allowing the rocks just to kind of, block our progression and our progress in doing the things that we need to do in order to build this amazing business that we know that we have inside of us. So being able to just kind of work around those rocks, and again, remembering to water the relationship that we have with ourselves, with the belief system that we develop in the season of our life. Because the belief system, the growing, is in the knowing of ourselves, right? Like, we really have to learn about ourselves again, as we are going through these midlife challenges, changes. Our bodies are moving differently, are feeling differently. Our minds are feeling or thinking differently, and we have to nurture that, and we have to pay attention to that and figure out what we need and what we want, so we can continue to take action, take bold actions as we are building businesses, building big things, writing books, whatever that thing is. We have to continue to nurture and water ourselves through that process. So yeah. So this is part one of the growing season, menopause and business, because we are still growing. We are still growing. When we were little girls, like, oh, when I grow up, I want to be this, I want to be that. And now we're that and this, but we're still growing, y'all. Like, we still are growing into ourselves. And being able to, again, as we grow, acknowledge all the rocks, and And sometimes we may need help acknowledging those or seeing those. And I invested in a coach when I started, building my business, because there were some of those rocks I didn't see, right? Investing in coaching is definitely something that can make a huge difference. Or mentors, or good friends who are doing similar things, or supportive, all the things that we need, that again will nurture this woman that we are growing into, right? So acknowledging all that, and knowing that we have all that we need inside of us. But we, again, have to pay attention to what we are allowing, or what may be blocking us, or may make us get in our own way. So we have to acknowledge those things so that we can continue to make progress into the things that we want to do. So that's all I got here for part 1, y'all. So stay tuned for part 2. Because again, like there's so much. It's been so much for me in this growing in this growing season, that it's just good to see the things that you kind of didn't really pay attention to, and you again, just learning more about yourself. It's just it has been difficult at times, obviously, but at the same time very rewarding, right? And I just appreciate the growth, but I also have to admit that in the messy parts, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. So what I want to do, what I hope to do, is help you, or empower you to get through your messiness quicker, quicker than I did. That is what I hope to do, as I share, my thoughts and my, bits and pieces of my story, because all, it just kind of, everything is just kind of coming together, as again I am going through different transitions, right? There's always going to be something, right? It's always going to be something. So I just hope that I am able to help you acknowledge your rocks, and so you can get out of your own way, and really do the thing that you really are being called to do. Because again, as a reminder, as I say at the end, as a woman of color, as a Black woman, you can do anything that you are being called to do, because you are enough, and you, again, have everything that you need right now inside of you, but you have to be able to actually uncover it and see it, because again, a lot of us, I know for me, I didn't see it, and there's still some times where I like, I'm all right. And I'm sometimes like, girl, you bad. Like, girl, you're a badass. Like, get yourself out there and stop playing. So we can, like I said, you got this, girl. You got this. So, that's all I got for y'all. Part 2, stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. As always, thanks for listening. Sending love and light to all of you. Until